Train by day, Kyle Wigginton podcast by night, all day.
Yeah, death is interesting to me too. Death is very interesting to me. It's and I just went through in 21. My dad died, and he died at my house. He was with me, and he was 93 when he died. So he went. It wasn't a sudden death, but it wasn't like he was lingering a long time without being able to do anything. You know what I mean? He died in October of 21. In February of 21, he was driving. So he had some problem with his knees. And when he lost mobility, that's when everything just started to slide. But just watching like a natural death and how it occurs is fascinating. It is fascinating. Just the things that when the body starts to shut down and my dad did not drink more than a half an ounce of water for an entire month and lived that whole time. Didn't eat for like almost 8 weeks. Mm-hmm. Still stayed alive, was still alive. And they do these things that sometimes they rally is what they call it. And you'll think they're close to death. And all of a sudden they're up and they're ready to go. There was quite a few times when my dad goes, get me out of this bed. I want to go for a walk. And when he tried, he couldn't, but he was like, I'm ready to go. And he just couldn't. But just the whole way your body just shuts down and all the blood sort of gets to your cavity to keep all the vital organs alive until it can't anymore. You know, it's just crazy to watch that whole process.
How long was he coherent through the process?
Up until really coherent, probably until the last, 3 weeks, maybe. Mm-hmm. We had him in hospice and Hurricane Ida came and we had to evacuate for Ida. And through the course of that, it was a nightmare. He had a urinary tract infection. And when old people get urinary tract infections, that's a whole other story, brother. Those people they start hallucinating, they see things, and it gets crazy.
Why?
I don't know, but that's just that happens to old people all the time. We found that out the hard way, but we knew that was going on with him. We had to put him in the hospital. We had to take him out of hospice, put him in a hospital to get over that because of Ida and everything that came with it. And he was in Hattiesburg. He was in a hospital at Hattiesburg for like a month after Ida, which was actually kind of good because we didn't have electricity for that whole month and we couldn't really keep him. So finally we get electricity. My brother and I went up there to get him and bring him home. And we were convinced that when we got him in the car, he wasn't going to survive the ride home. And not only did he survive the ride home, he was pointing out things along the interstate that he remembered and knew from, years past and reminiscing in stories and stuff. We get him home. And by the time we got him home, he was exhausted and we got him in the bed and, we really thought that was going to be the end because the drive, I guess, tired him out.
Wore him out. Yeah.
And we got him in the bed. The hospice nurse came over and she said, she goes, I'll give him till tomorrow afternoon. So all of my family came. That was a Saturday. That Sunday, all of my family came over and spent time with him all day. And he was out. He didn't talk to anybody. He was just, he was just sleeping the whole time. So it got to be about 10 o'clock at night and it got down to one of my brothers. It was just me and my brother in his room. And we were watching TV and my dad was kind of behind us. And all of a sudden we hear, what are y'all doing hanging around? And we turn around and he goes, y'all are waiting for me to die, huh? And we went, yeah. And he said, not today, not today. And he lived on. And it was the craziest things would happen. Like like 2 or 3 weeks before he died, he was a big football fan and we were watching the Saints game and I was in a chair and he was kind of sitting to my right, a little bit behind me watching TV. And he was blowing out stats about different players and different things that they did during the game. And about halfway through the game, one of these players made a big play. Then he went on about how this guy, how wonderful he was. And then a few seconds later, he said, what are we going to do about the little girl? So what little girl's that? He goes, Shirley. Like, who, Dad? And he goes, the little girl that's laying on the floor behind you. I was like, oh boy, here we go. So it's like, okay, well, I said, she's probably not our problem, man. Let's just watch the game. He goes, yeah, she's dead anyway. So we start watching the game. Yeah. So I'm like, oh my God. So my wife comes in the room and asks my dad if he wants a popsicle. And he said, yeah, I'd love a popsicle. So she leaves and he's like, good thing they didn't ask Shirley, huh? Because she's dead. I was like, oh my God. So as the game progressed, my dad slowly left reality and went into his head. And he was having a party in this room. He was in this bedroom in our house, where everybody in his family that had died was in the room with him. And he was making eye contact and like hugging people, laughing and talking and joking. And I didn't exist. Like I tried to get in his face and say stuff to him. He didn't see me. He didn't see me at all. That game was a noon game on a Saturday. This party went on till 6:30 in the morning.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was into it. The only person that was at the party that is still alive today is my oldest brother. And I started to get worried because maybe he had like passed away that night and showed up wherever he was. But this party went on all night long. And that was when he started to really decline. He would pop in and out after that, you know, in reality and in his own world. Then he got to the point where he just couldn't talk. You know, he just didn't have the energy to talk. And that's when he slowly just started to go away, and he didn't drink or eat. And they told, you know, the doctors told us, or the hospice people told us, it's not that they need, or that they're hungry and they can't eat, or they're thirsty and they can't drink. Their body literally doesn't want it anymore. Their body is literally saying, we're shutting all these systems down, and all the mechanisms that told you you're thirsty and all the mechanisms that tell you you're hungry just aren't germane to the situation anymore. And your body just slowly shuts down. And he died, staring right in my eyes. He looked at me and I felt his last heartbeat and his last breath. When he died at 1:30 on October 18th, 2021.
Did going through that process change your relationship with death?
No. No. I mean, for me personally, I don't think so. Other than now, you know, if I do die a natural death, I kind of have an idea where it's going to go, I guess. Maybe that in those respects, yes.
That could be terrifying though, because now you know, you're like, oh shit, my body's not eating anymore. It must be about to happen.
Well, or it may be that, well, like for my dad, I mean, when he became incapacitated, his bedroom was directly across the hall from where we slept, and he would cry himself to sleep, begging for his God to just let him die.
Oh, he was ready to go.
He was ready to go. So, you know, I think I would be more like, can we get this over with? I'd
right.
be like,
at that point, yeah.
I'd really like to not be thirsty anymore. You know what I mean? So I think that may have that effect on me. But you know, I guess you don't know until you know, you know.
I mean, it's coming regardless. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
But I think if I was, you know, incapacitated and couldn't take care of myself anymore, I think I would be ready to.
Yeah, I mean, who wants to live like that? I mean,
No.
it killed me. I mean, he resorted to being sometimes a child. I mean, like when he would get to the point where we would have to get help to the house because he was in need of something that we couldn't provide him, and it was medical help. He would literally like revert back to, I'll be good. Don't call him. I'll be good. You know, it's like, oh my God. And as his son, I'm like,
yeah, you don't want to see
no, I have to take care of, you know what? That was a weird dynamic for a little while, but, yeah, it's kind of an interesting thing to go through.
Well, I mean, for me, I will just die on the floor one day. Like, that's the thing about not having any kids.
I guess that's true.
One day when it happens, I'm just going to be like, okay, it's time.
Well, you know, I'm the youngest of three boys, and I was an accident. I'm 9 years after the closest one to me. My brothers are 9 and 11 years older than me, and neither of them are married. One of them just lives by himself. So they're in their 70s. So I keep asking, what is your plans? Because I'm the fall guy. I'm the fallback. I'm the guy that, you know, family wise anyway. So I don't know. You know, who knows? Who knows?
You're going to be seeing them all go, man.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, you know, if everything goes right, I guess it's true, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, I think about that quite often. Like, I'm not there for my parents. Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of missing out on seeing, you know, their golden years, which is kind of sad a little bit. Because I know that's part of life, like being there for your parents and things like that. But I mean, you know, me living down here, I just don't really get a chance to do that. So it's kind of disheartening a little bit. When I think about
I get that. And we have just the opposite of it. I mean, when my kids were little, I bought the house next door and moved my dad there so he could have access to my kids all the time. And so we've had him since 2000. I guess, yeah, but for the last 21 years of his life, he lived right next door to us.
Yeah.
So
you got to see it all.
Got to see it all. And he got to see it all. I mean, he constantly tells us that my children would kept him alive as long as he lived 93 years, and he lived a good 93 years. So, I
mean, what is the average is like 70 for a man?
Yeah, I think so.
So yeah, he
and
made
for
it way
his
past
family, 70. his family, I think he's the third of 8 children, and he was the 5th one to die. Wait, is that right? 1, 2, 3. June, Stanley, Guy, Lynn. He was the 5th one. He was the 5th one.
So he still has siblings that are alive.
That are much younger. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And he, none of them have made it into their 90s, even his mom and dad. So we'll see. I mean, they have a good chance with medicine the way it is, and as young as the other ones are, they're still the oldest ones I think are in their 80s. I think they could probably beat his record. I don't know.
So how we got on this conversation? It's a very, very morbid start to a podcast. But how we got on this conversation was he was telling me about one of his friends. I guess he's a friend of yours, who went home from a play or something. What did he say?
You know who it was? You know Sandy? Remember Sandy?
Yeah.
That's our husband.
Get out of here.
Yeah. That was our husband.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So one of our friends, they went to a play, and he went home from the play, and as soon as he got home, he just fell over dead.
God, yeah.
And they said that the cause was a blockage in his
plaque just kind of came off as a sheet and covered up one of the passageways to his chambers to the aorta.
Covered up one of the heart valves and just fell over dead.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of, I was asking him what he thinks that was like, that experience of death. And then we got on talking about his father. Those are 2 totally different experiences of death.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would rather go out the way Sandy's husband did. That's the quick and easy.
Right. Just gone. Yeah.
But I wonder if there's pain there,
I'm sure there's what the hell is going on disbelief.
Do you does your heart feel pain? I mean, your brain doesn't feel pain.
It must because my oldest brother just had 2 heart attacks and he said they hurt.
Yeah.
So I guess that they must,
Yeah. I think it's wild that your brain doesn't feel anything.
Yeah.
You can poke around in that
brain
thing,
and your eyes, which is kind of crazy.
Your eyes don't feel anything either?
Your eyes don't feel pain.
Dude, my dad had, he had concrete lodged in his eye one time and had to go in and pop his eyeball out.
Wow.
He said they popped it out, set it on his cheek, and it's my dad. So I don't know how much he's telling me the truth. But he said they popped it out, set it on his cheek, and had to cut it open and put a cadaver's cornea in it because it broke his cornea when it went through.
So could he see out of it while it was out?
Bro, he says he can. He says that he was awake the whole time for the surgery.
Oh my God.
And that he could actually see the floor.
I don't think they put you under anesthesia for that. I mean, they chill you out, but I don't think they generalize you for that.
Dude, I would just be like, cut it out.
Yeah.
I can't even do this.
Just get an ice pick.
My
get it
goodness,
out.
Man. I cannot imagine having my eyeball.
I don't like
down.
people messing with my eyes or my teeth. It just, those 2 things just freak me out a little bit. I could never wear contacts because I just can't get my finger close to my eyeball.
I had to wear contacts for a movie one time, and they were the scleras, the big ones.
Right, yeah.
And it took 3 people to hold me down and put them in.
It had to have been 3 big people.
Yeah, they were holding my eyes open. One person was holding my eye open. One person was holding me back.
Oh, man.
And the other person was digging around, putting the contact in. And it was even worse getting it out.
Oh God.
Because they had to reach in there and grab it.
Oh geez. And you can see this going on. No.
Yeah, I was there for the whole thing.
No,
it was rough, man. But I don't know how people do wear contacts all the time.
No. I don't either. My son-in-law has contacts, and I don't get it.
Or even the LASIK. LASIK.
That's scary too.
They used to take a knife and cut off the outer edge and then do LASIK.
Yeah.
Now I think they do that with lasers too. I
think so too.
But I mean, that's so wild to me.
It was very invasive for a while. Yeah. And I think that, I don't know how it is now, but I remember back in the 90s, it didn't last as long as you'd think. You'd think it would be one time and you're done, but sometimes you'd have to go back. No. Sometimes you'd have to go back and get it redone again.
Well, I do know that there's a very low percentage that they can mess up.
Right.
And one of my friends was that percentage.
Yeah. I had a friend like that too.
Now her eyes are worse off than they were, unfortunately.
Yeah. I have a friend that had the same problem. My eyes aren't that bad. I mean, I can still, if I don't have glasses on, I can still see. It just hurts my head. It's because it's like I'm trying so hard to focus. This just makes everything nice and clear.
Right.
So I can.
Yeah. Luckily, well, I would say this, but I've never been tested either. So my eyes could just be fucked up, and I just don't know that they're not.
Well, that's what happened to me. I got, for many years, I was in the crossword puzzles and from the paper, and I would do crossword puzzles every night. And suddenly all the letters, when I'd look at the clues for the words, had this slight, like light gray drop shadow on them.
Mm.
And I thought they had just changed the way the paper was done. I thought it was like that.
Yeah.
And I asked my wife one time, I said, what is this? And she said the word, and I said, oh, with that stupid drop shadow they have on it, I couldn't read it. She's like, what are you talking about? I was like, there's a drop shadow. And we had this big argument. And so I went to the doctor, and he said, oh yeah, you have some problems. So I had to get glasses. But before that, the only other time that I was like you, I really didn't go to the eye doctor much. The only time I ever did was I had this weird like infection that got in the skin of my eye, but it was like a big giant sty. And when I went to the eye doctor, because I thought it was an eye problem, he told me my vision was better than 20/20. He said, and this is when I was in my 20s. And he said, one day, probably in your 30s or 40s, you're going to wake up and you're going to either be nearsighted or farsighted. This muscle in your eye is going to stick, and it's going to be whatever it is. And that's what happened to me.
See, I've heard this, and there's a guy named Andrew Huberman who he's Stanford neuroscientist, and I think he studies eyeballs and things. And one of the things he talks about is how to retrain that muscle.
Oh, really?
Like how to build the muscle up.
No kidding.
Yeah, he talks about that with a bunch of muscles, like also your jaw muscles, your face muscles. That a lot of times we don't, since now we eat soft foods a lot.
Yeah.
We don't train our jaw muscles anymore, so we have weak jaws.
No kidding.
Which causes them to sag, and it also causes wrinkles in the corners of the eyes.
Right.
So he says all these are just muscles that you can train if you just the eyeballs. He has like certain exercises that he does where you look far off, then you like cover your eyes,
right,
and like look far off again. So you're basically like just training the eyes to zoom in and out.
I'm gonna have to look that up. What's his name?
Andrew Huberman.
Right, I'm gonna watch this podcast. So
He's got a podcast. I'm sure he has some about the eyeballs, but he talks about all kinds of cool stuff.
Yeah, I did a story one time. A doctor's he's a graduate of Tulane University. He's a doctor, and he is a specialist in treating cancer of the eye. And he literally he sews these little patches of radiation to your eye and will kill the cancer. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. But he is evidently the guy that patented and developed this stuff.
That's so gross. The world needs people like that.
Yes.
The world is,
but it's like, can you imagine like walking around with that thing, like knowing that thing is somewhere in your head?
You probably can't feel it though, can you?
It's radiation. No, it's nuclear. It's a nuclear device.
Well, and you know, the eyeballs are part of the brain.
Yeah, I guess that's true, huh? Yeah.
So, I mean, you're basically sewing radiation to your brain.
Yeah.
Just the external part of it. The rest of it's inside the skull. I learned that from Andrew Huberman too.
Human bodies.
Yeah, they're amazing machines.
And they can withstand so much, man. You know? It's just insanity how much a human body can take, you know? It's unbelievable.
More than we even give him credit for. Like look at David Goggins. The stuff that guy does is insane.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with him?
Oh, wait, that's not the actor.
No, David Goggins is just an internet personality. He's like a fitness guy where he'll just wake up one day and go run 100 miles.
Oh my God.
And he like posts this on like Instagram and stuff.
Yeah.
It's just crazy stuff like that. But that's how he's built like this name for himself.
Right.
And his whole thing is basically what you're saying is like the human body can take so much more. It's the mind that's weak.
Yeah. I mean, and even in the other direction, I mean, you think about like just the people that survived the Holocaust. I mean, the fact that can even happen is just amazing. You know, or people that get stuck in, you know, in winters on the top of a mountain that wind up making it down. You know?
Ooh, that's a good point.
You know what I mean? It's just people that do that kind of stuff. It's just amazing.
Well, no, you're getting into my territory now. If you were stuck in the Himalayas with some dead people, would you eat their carcasses?
I'd probably wear them to make me warm, for one.
Yeah, so you're not opposed to that kind of stuff.
No.
I'd eat them. We talk about this all the time.
I mean,
at the bar.
you know, I think I'm a firm believer that the only power that's greater than self-preservation is preserving your offspring. You know, if you're dead, then you're dead. I mean, there's nothing I can do for you, but you could certainly help me.
Yeah.
And if I was dead, I'd certainly want you to do it. You know, if I was dead, I'd certainly want to be a part of your survival. So wouldn't bother me if you wore me as a coat.
See, I want people to eat me when I die, but there's a certain way.
Yeah,
a certain way. I want to put mushroom spores in my body.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And let mushrooms grow on me.
I'm kind of the same way, but what I want to do is I want to donate my body. Well, I'm questioning this decision now, but my main thing was I wanted to donate my body to science and mostly use it to figure out criminal activity. Like there's some place in Virginia where they like literally will take your body and throw it in the grass and see what happens. Watch it decompose and see, so that they know, well, this body has been in this climate for this long, and they'll know, they'll figure out how much. I don't know how good that is now, how much is that's needed now. I'm sure that it's been going on for decades and maybe more than that, how much more research they need. But I wouldn't mind doing that type of thing, where you're using my body for whatever good purpose there is, because I'm not using it anymore. I
mean, I'm sure there are millions of experiments you could still do with a dead body.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the issues that they have with like burying just a dead body in the ground is the heavy metals. So I read a little bit about this, and that's why I come up with the mushroom thing, is because they said that these mushrooms, if they actually eat the bodies, they can reabsorb the heavy metals.
Oh, right.
So they don't go into the ground supply.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And now you probably have so much plastic in your body. I mean,
have you seen some of the stuff that come out? Like they found a fetus with plastic in it.
Jesus.
With microplastics.
Well, that's got to go through the woman, I mean, it's amazing what we don't know we're ingesting.
I mean, even breathing. Yeah. All of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what are you going to do? I mean, you can't like stop breathing and eating. No. I eat pretty healthy. I eat about as healthy as you can.
Right.
And I'm still probably getting microplastics.
Oh yeah. Oh, you sure you are.
Yeah.
Because everything's everything is delivered. Right. It's delivered in a way that's economically effective, I guess. The days of the milkman bringing glass bottles are gone. Mm-hmm. So, I think, you think about it, plastic is probably going to be the demise of the world. I mean, it used to be the big plastic field in the Pacific Ocean. Now it's these little tiny bits that are in your fish that you eat, or something else eats and it gets fed to whatever else you eat, Yeah. So I think, unless our body, it'd be interesting to see if we will evolve to the point where we can just handle that. If it gets to be such a big content of the body. If it's like, when you go to the doctor and it says, well, your cholesterol is high, your plastic level is just about right.
we just like implement it into the bbody. So it's like something.
Yes, it's just something that's in you now,
It's interesting. We have your own helmet, right? Plastic helmet.
you have your iron count. Your Apple Watch tells you how much, how much biodegradable plastic you have in you.
I mean, that is what evolution is. Like there's going to be, all the other humans are going to die off, and there's going to be one or two that can actually digest plastic.
Right.
And then everyone's going to evolve from them.
Right. Exactly.
So crazy, man. I mean, and even if all humans do die out, if one's never born that can eat plastic, then there'll be a worm or something that comes along.
Well, I have a feeling we're going to evolve. I mean, just like roaches and alligators and birds, really. I mean, birds are dinosaurs. Birds are the last like huge species of dinosaurs that have survived. And I guess they flew out of the way of the meteor. I don't know, but I don't know the science behind it. But they evolved. Everything evolved into something that could exist in whatever was left.
Right.
So there's going to have to be some form of us that goes on, unless we just wipe each other out with our own. We're the only creatures on the planet that can create things that aren't biodegradable. I mean, that's one thing. There's nobody else on the planet but us. So we have the ability to completely destroy it. Mm-hmm. But how? I don't know. Who knows? Oppenheimer or Barbie? Either way, it could be the destruction of us.
Yeah, plastic or nukes. Maybe both. Who knows?
That's right. Plastic nukes. There you go.
Yeah, the whole like war thing going on right now. Mm-hmm. Like that's. Are you like scared of nukes at all? Like, could you be scared of it? Like, if a nuke gets shot, like, what's?
Yeah, we can. I've been watching. There's a series that was put out. I just happened to upon it. It was on HBO, but it's like the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, right? It just goes and tells you all everything that happened in these decades.
Is there always a scare?
It seems like it.
Yeah.
It seems like when I was born in 1962, and I was born right before, the Cuban Missile Crisis started. Mm-hmm. And we were, that was the closest to nuclear holocaust we've probably come on the planet after World War II. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that was going to be in Cuba. So, we're a port city. We probably have been nuked. And my parents told me that, we went to bed one night not knowing if we were going to be alive the next day, so I guess there was that going on. I mean, I was not even one yet, so I had no idea what was happening. So I guess so. Yeah, I guess there's always been something.
Yeah, this is like the first time in my life I've actually looked into geopolitics. But I guess there's probably a scare always of this crap going on.
Yeah.
It just seems like right now everything's like.
Well, it seems like, and I guess that may be true of all things, but there seems to just be so much happening every place. It's like it's not little things every place; it's big things every place. But the thing going on with Hamas and the Jews and Russia and
we're in Yemen now,
and and then now we're like involved in that. We're shooting guns at that, and Iraq and Iran and.
I feel like we have our hands in all this crap.
And we're kind of politically with us just in the country. I mean, the country is like incredibly divided.
Very divided.
And I don't think it's been this way since I've been alive. I mean, I'm sure it has in the past, but I don't think I have ever seen it evolve into what it has evolved to.
Right.
No.
Yeah. I grew up in a very small town. So for me, none of this crap was around when I was when I was very young. Like everyone just got along.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was that way.
You can have ideological differences. You just got along.
Absolutely. Like everyone they were surviving. And like it wasn't until I moved to a city where I was like, hang on a second. And it's also the time frame that we're into. It just got way out of hand. And it seems like it's only getting worse.
Yeah, it does. It just seems like everybody's getting in their corners. And I think, I'm not a big proponent of like bashing the media, because when it comes down to it, you're responsible for yourself. I mean, you watch what you want to watch and do what you want to do, but you still have to live in the world. And you still have to realize there's people that don't believe the way you do. And they were there before the media was there. And now it's just, now you have a powerful voice. You have this, when this, and just so the audience knows, I spent most of my career in broadcast television. And one of the things that you're taught in school, not so much in the TV stations anymore, but in school, you're taught, we're taught that being in broadcast is a responsibility. And this is back before we had cable. This is back when you had 3 networks, 3 TV stations, and a PBS station. That's what you could watch. But they kind of ingrained in us in school how powerful that is. It's a responsibility. You're broadcasting information to masses of people. So if you're doing news, or if you're doing something that is going to affect a large amount of people, you better be damn sure you get the information right. If a hurricane's coming, or there's a guy on top of a hotel shooting at people, you need to get the information out to people in a responsible way to make sure that they understand what's going on. We don't really have that anymore. Locally, I would say locally it's more there, but on a national level, news has become commentary. There's no, when you watch any cable news channel, I don't care what hour of the day it is, you get about 10 seconds of news because they're using it to introduce the segment that they're going to discuss it in. And it's just a discussion. It's just your opinion and my opinion. And usually, if we're on a show or on a network, we have the same opinion, and we're just voicing our opinion so that the people on the other end have a reason to rally around or build or feel really good about their opinion. So now you just dug in. Now you got, I saw on TV that they believe what I believe. Well, the guy that doesn't believe has a network and does the same thing.
Right.
So now we're just like in these corners, and we're talking about civil war, about an ideological difference that we've always had.
Yeah.
And it's unbelievable to me that we've gotten to this point, and just to show you how powerful television is. When I used to be in TV, I was one of the people that used to give tours to kids. And just to illustrate the power of television, what I would tell these kids is I would give them an example about how powerful TV is. And I would tell the parents they can't answer. And I'd ask the kids if they knew who Robert Plant was. They had no clue. How many of y'all knew who Ozzy Osbourne is? Whoa, they all raised their hand. So the difference between Robert Plant and Ozzy Osbourne is Robert Plant didn't have a TV show. And the parents would all go, huh,
Yeah.
You know, I even had a case where there was one of my brothers was a police officer, and crazy as it was, a man that worked, it was a Jefferson Parish sheriff, was killed in the line of duty. And he had the exact same name as my brother, the exact same name, except he was a junior. My brother's not a junior. And when, you know, news broke and it got crazy and wild and nutty, and all the news stations were kind of, you know, getting information as they got it. Well, they brought this officer that died to University Hospital, and the word trickled out that it was this guy, David. And all the New Orleans police were like, oh my God, we know this guy. So word went out and got that who it was supposed who died. And I worked for WVUE, and I had a friend that worked for WWL. And my friend called me and he says, dude, I'm so sorry about your brother. And I was like, that wasn't my brother. My brother's a retired New Orleans police. He's not. He goes, no. It was, you sure? And so I called him to make sure. And he's like, and my brother was alive. So they're like, dude, we just ran your brother's picture on TV.
Oh my God.
That he was the one that died. So my phone blows up to the point where the people that I have known since I was a little kid were like, you know, what does your brother do when he was retired or when all this stuff? And I said, no. It's a mistaken identity. It's all straightened out. They're not going to run his picture anymore. And they're like, no, dude, you're in denial. You're in denial. I was like, why do you think I'm in denial? I just talked to him. He goes, it was on TV. It was on TV. Your brother is, he said, you know, just, you're going to have to come to grips, man. I love you, but you're going to have to come to grips.
That's concerning.
I'm like, no. I was like, here's his phone number. Call him. He'll be happy to talk to you. But people wouldn't believe me,
right?
Because they saw it on television.
That's concerning. Very bad. I mean, a lot of things I see these days are concerning though. So, you know, it's not surprising. But the fact that they're seeing things on TV and just believing them right off the cuff.
Well, and it's so funny because each side accuses the other side of being sheep.
Oh yeah.
It's like, you know what? If you're a consumer of information, I don't care who you are, you're sheep. You're going to be you're being led down a path. If you believe it or not, you're being led down a path.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's what consumer cultures do. They get sent places. They get sent places to do things, to buy things, to believe things, to advocate for somebody, to hate somebody, whatever it is. You're being led down that path.
Well, so by that definition, is everyone a sheep?
Yes.
So you think you can break out of that box?
No. I think you can control it to an extent. Mm-hmm. I think if you're a type of person where you hear a news story and you know it's from a biased organization, I don't care if it's left or if it's right, and if you have the wherewithal to know that this entity that's giving you this information is a tribal leader, mm-hmm. and you know that there's another tribe on the other side of that, and you're smart enough to go find out what the other tribe is saying about it, you're going to find the information's being presented to you. They both ways. Both opinions of both ways that you're getting this information derive from a fact. It derives from the same fact, mm-hmm. but it's being disseminated to you in two different ways. A great example, one of the greatest SNL skits I ever saw. Ed Asner was the guest host, and they had a skit where he was a nuclear plant operator, and he was retiring. They're at his retirement party. He's getting ready to leave, and they said, "Before you leave, do you have any words of wisdom for us as you leave this plant behind?" And he says, "You can't put too much water in a nuclear reactor." And he leaves. So one guy goes over to this valve and he said, "What are you doing?" He goes, "I'm getting ready to put water into the nuclear reactor." He goes, "No," he said, "You can't put too much water in the nuclear reactor." He goes, "Right. So I'm going to put more water in the nuclear reactor." He goes, "No, that's not what he said." You know, so immediately it breaks off into two things. It's the one fact, but
it's the way you heard it.
It's the way you interpreted it. Yeah. Right. So depending on who, and immediately these people break off into different groups. And it was like the groups to put water in it, the groups to not. You know, so it's a debatable fact. It's no matter what, the world is going to keep on going, no matter what you believe. It doesn't matter what you believe. As long as you stay in your, I don't want to say stay in your lane. As long as you live your life and try to be the best person you can be, mm-hmm. it's just going to go. It's just going to, life is going to go on. You know, I can't worry about all of the world's issues because then, my God, you feel like, you know,
It's overwhelming.
It's overwhelming. And you've got so much you can control. So control it and keep it moving and keep the people around you as up as possible as you can. You know, I just read a book last year called Everything is Fucked, a book about hope. And it was great because it basically what it said was, it was like, forget about hope. Hope is luck in a draw. But if you are just focused on being the best person you can be, just be the best you can be and be as good as you can be to everyone around you, that will kind of pay off. That will pay off and people around you will notice it. And I tell you what, that's how I've kind of like laid out my career. It's like I've been trying my best to be the best customer service person I can be in my industry. And and people have followed me around because I do that. I look out for them. I try to make sure they get what they need. So in the long run, that's really what all life's all about, is just being satisfied by trying to help other people.
Yeah.
And that's basically how I live my life. I didn't always, but I do now.
What did you used to do?
I don't know. I think I was more of a,
You're a little selfish.
Selfish or more pessimistic about things.
Okay.
Like I would be the first one to like figure out a reason why not. It's like, and it's funny because in my television career, when I first started, I worked at a station. It was a PBS station, and things moved very slow. It was, we go, hey, we need to do this. Yeah, we'll do it in about a month. And it would take 2 months after we'd make the goal for a month. And I left there and went to a commercial TV station. And the first day, I remember I was being introduced to all these people, and a salesperson said, well, we need to get this done. And I was like, okay, fine. Just leave the information on my desk. And I went out and took another 10 minutes to do the rest of the meet and greets with everybody. And I got to my desk and the information was there. Mm-hmm. And it freaked me out. I was like, oh my God. And I called my wife. I was like, I don't know if I can do this. And then it became incredibly refreshing because I realized everybody that I worked with understood their role. And they understood what they had to do, but they also understood that to make sure that their role was complete, if I was a part of it, I had to get my part done. Mm-hmm. And they would, if I had a problem, they would stop what they were doing, come help me to make sure that I was doing the right thing, and then go back to what they were doing. And of course that kind of washed off on me, because it's like, you realize that's really what teamwork's about. It's like you making sure you have everybody else's back, not leaving them out to dry, not, because ultimately you're all working toward the same goal.
Yeah.
And that really changed. That job really changed the way I look at things. It really did.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I wish more workplaces were that way. I feel like nowadays, kind of the way we handle, in some instances, the way they handle work culture is if someone's not doing their job, then they're the outcast, mm-hmm. Rather than actually pitching in. Or even
cliquish. I mean, it could be,
very cliquish
or out to get people, I mean, it's like, I've seen that a lot where it's like, well,
it seems like some places need a fall guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it seems like that's kind of the way they look at things. It's like, oh, well, he's the fall guy, he's the bad guy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely true. There's, and unfortunately, I found that the company that I worked for at the time when I had this revelation was a company that doesn't exist anymore. But it was the first time I worked for a Fortune 500 corporation, and I went into this not knowing anything about any of that stuff. And these people were amazing. I mean, they were like amazing people to work for, and I was a big on the freaking bandwagon for corporate America, because it was like, if this is what it's about, oh my God. This is just crazy cool. And then I went to work for another one, and it wasn't the same environment. It was not my job and, mentality. We had to kind of me and a couple of people kind of had to work at trying to get everybody on board to kind of change everything. Mm-hmm. Oh, it was just so miserable. But, and then you have, when you get into big corporation situations where it's how much you could be recognized as an individual, then it gets really bad, because then if you get noticed, if you get recognized for something, somebody else now didn't.
Jealous.
So they have to figure out a way to get one up on you. Mm-hmm. And then the best way to do that is to make you look bad.
Right.
So I didn't like that after that. And I still to this day, I'm not a big fan of corporations. And
you like working for yourself way better.
Oh my God. I like working for myself better. I like mom and pops better. Organizations where, my wife was a big retail person, and she was in retail management for pretty much as long as we've known each other. And she worked for pretty big companies. And, when the brick and mortar stores of retail started to fall off, she was commanding a pretty high salary, and they had to get rid of her because they couldn't afford her anymore. And now she works locally for a little mom and pop place, and she couldn't be happier than she's at. There's a couple of times where she's like, she doesn't understand, like, how a mom and pop can make decisions the way they do, but they can. If the owners can do whatever the hell they want, and you don't have to worry about all the crazy corporate crap, all the rungs you got to go through to get something done. They just make a decision and it's over. That's the decision.
Yeah, that's kind of the same way we do things. Like I know Dat Dog now is like a corporate company. Yeah, so whenever sometimes we do things around here and we try to incorporate these other businesses around here. Yeah. We can't just go straight to them and be like, "Hey, let's do this." They have to go up the ladder to talk to people about it.
That's just annoying. Especially in this community. I mean, this is a community that does things at the drop of a hat. You know what I mean? And it's like you're either in or you're out. You just have to make a decision. And in this environment, especially this kind of a street, I mean, it just seems to me this should be more of a mom and pop type thing.
Well, it makes sense if like you have as many locations as they do that they want some kind of structure in it. Mm-hmm. Like I think it's the only way to have that many locations is to have a little structure. But at the same time, it is New Orleans, small place.
Right. You got to be ready to move.
Yeah.
You got to be ready to do things.
That's all. We love moving and shaking around here, man. If someone comes and asks me to do something, I'm like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what it is. Like someone asked me the other night if we could do a Nintendo night here. I was like, I don't even know what that is. Let's do it. We'll give it a shot.
Dude, I'm like totally impressed with everything you've done with this place. I mean, I know you've been here for a while. And the night that I came over to help do one of the music nights, it was just like, oh my God, this is just amazing. And then I don't see them here anymore. I don't know if they're here, but you had free video games.
Oh yeah.
You
They're
still have them
in the room over there. Yeah.
Okay. I was like, oh my God, this is freaking amazing.
Yeah.
But it's just it was a cool clientele. It was a cool vibe. I think I did two of those nights, I believe. I think.
Yeah, you guys did awesome too.
But those music nights were just wonderful. Yeah. I mean, it was just that was the other thing. It was just like I got exposed to talent I had no idea existed here, and those people were good. These were good musicians that came up and grabbed the microphone.
Yeah, it's been very cool to watch this place evolve and see the people that come and go in this place. That's another cool thing. Like the other night we had a guy, or like just a month or two ago now, but this guy from a band called the Raffies. And as soon as I heard him play, I was like, dude, you want to come on the podcast? And I was an older guy. And he's like, yeah, listen to this podcast that I did. It's a Vice podcast. And I was like, you did a podcast for Vice? He's like, yeah. So I listened to the podcast and I was like, holy shit. This guy is one of the guys that changed the Hollywood sign up. It's like there's only been a handful of people that have ever changed the Hollywood sign up. Their band was one of the bands that did it.
What did he make it say?
Raffies. Yeah, it's the name of their band. Freaking hilarious. I was like, I had no clue, but this guy just walked in the bar one night. And,
wow.
Yeah. So you never know who's going to walk through. It's pretty crazy.
No.
So it's been really cool to watch this place evolve and then watch the people evolve too. Like the comedians that come. We've had a bunch of comedians that are now going on to do like bigger and better things. Like, Matt Rife. You heard of this guy? He's a younger comedian, but
he kind of got in trouble because of some sexual. Yeah, that guy.
Yeah. So, well, not Matt. Matt hadn't been through here, but one of the comedians that's opening for him now, Alex. He was host of our open mic for a while.
Really?
Yeah. So it's kind of cool to see these people evolve in their careers and things.
You know that dude Theo Vaughn.
Yeah.
He's from Covington.
Mm-hmm.
I ran into him at Christmas. He was having dinner at a restaurant we were at.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, but I remember him when he was younger. It wasn't. I think there was a show on MTV. It wasn't the thing with the house. It was. I think it was called Road Rules, maybe.
Yeah, he was on that.
They put him in an RV.
Yeah, and they thought he was weird.
Yeah, they thought he was a nutcase, right? I think he probably is. I mean, he was within earshot of me at the table, and the stories he was telling was pretty quiet. But I saw some of his podcasts, and he's got Spade and people like that on. I mean,
he's big now.
He's running a pretty big crowd, and he was told he ain't gonna. I remember he was at the table saying this, where people just didn't have any faith in him being anything. So he got him.
But he's such a unique personality.
Right. He found a trail. Rode the trail, and now people are following him.
Well, Louis C.K. is one of the people that's been like, yo, this kid's going places. Like even before Theo Vaughn was Theo Vaughn, he's like, that's one of the funniest guys out right now. After just having a conversation with him. But he can rip off of anything and makes a joke out of it.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
Yeah.
Hopefully one day this podcast blows up and we can be like, yo, Theo, come on the podcast.
I bet he would. I bet if he saw this podcast, he'd do it if he was in town.
Probably would. He'd probably go to open mic one night if he was in town.
Yeah.
He talks about New Orleans quite frequently, so I guess he comes back to visit quite often. He was mentioning the potholes on one of the podcasts he was doing a while back. I thought that was hilarious. You know what I love about Theo Von is he's not afraid to use his platform too. So he went on a podcast here recently with the guy that bought insulin and then jacked the price up 2,000%.
Yeah.
And he called the guy out on the podcast. And I was like, that's the fucking balls that we need right there.
Yeah.
Like the fact that he even asked the guy about it and the guy was defending his reason for doing it. And, you know, Theo Von was kind of like, that's still not a good enough reason. That's a piece of shit thing to do.
Right. Exactly.
But then they kind of moved on. But but still at the same time, he still called him out on it. And I was like, that's fucking huge.
Good for him.
Yeah, no, the fact that guy bought insulin and then jacked the price up.
Martin Skrelix or something like that.
Something like that. Like I have a buddy who's on this street here who's a diabetic, really good friend of mine. And he works a shit job just for insurance so he can afford the insulin. Yeah. It's insane. Like he would definitely not work that job if he didn't.
That's the one thing we were talking about death earlier. The one thing that scares me about aging is something getting to a point where the only way I can stay healthy is by being medicated. Because it is so expensive to do it. Yeah. You know, I have asthma and it's very controlled. It's not something that I need to take medicine for every day, thank God, because this one inhaler that I have that I'm supposed to use every day costs $800 for a 30-day supply. $800 to make so I could breathe. Now I can make that last a year, but there are people, this is not prescribed to be used that way. This is prescribed to be used every day.
I mean, why? Like, why does the medication cost that much? It doesn't cost that much to make it. They're just they can charge that, right? Because people need it.
I think like my doctor told me, she was at a convention where they talked about the inhaler issue because evidently all inhalers prices have gone up dramatically. And it says that they're throwing the money into research to make them better. But do I need to pay? I mean, when the one that I used before that was $40 a month. So am I paying $760 for research?
Yeah, right. Have you looked at Mark Cuban's website? I think Mark Cuban has a new website.
Yeah, but the problem is that all this stuff is still in its trademarky thing. It's like once it can go generic, that's what he does. That's what he does. He takes the generic part, and this medicine isn't offered in generic form yet. They still have that trademark thing.
So got it patented and stuff. Yeah, it's crazy, dude. This world we live in is psycho. Yeah, my dad, that's what's keeping him from retiring right now is the same thing, insurance. Yeah. Like he wants to keep insurance for as long as he can. Yeah. So he's still working at 64 when he could have already retired. Right.
Is he looking for the Medicare?
I guess it's what he's looking for. I don't really know.
65.
Yeah, maybe that's what he's doing.
That's my next big step is Medicaid.
Yeah, so I guess he's trying to get to that level. But the fact that he still has to work just to maintain insurance.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah,
I have, being an independent contractor now, I have that American AMA, no, not AMA, whatever that is, that Obamacare thing. Mm-hmm. I have that. Mm-hmm. So, and it's not cheap, but it pays, it makes it, what it does is it protects me against anything catastrophic is all it does. I mean, it doesn't cover any of my medicines or anything like that. But if anything happens where, I broke my wrist a couple of years ago and it helped. It helped having that, but I'm a couple of years away from Medicare. I don't know what that means either. I don't think it's that great.
You're 63?
I'll be 62 in a month.
I didn't know you were that old.
I am that old.
Damn. I thought you were my age.
60. I get that a lot, which is nice. It's nice to hear that. I mean, it's nice to hear that.
Yeah, I did think you were younger.
That I don't look my age and I don't act my age. Because
that's what it is.
I find people that are my age.
That's a lot of it, man. Like even me being around this bar all the time, people do not know that I'm as old as I am.
Right. And you're with a younger crowd, I'm assuming.
Yeah,
right?
Around a younger crowd all the time. And they're like, dude, we thought you were in your 20s or like in your early 30s. And I'm like, no, I'm up there.
Well, that's good. I mean, it's good to be able to live life and stay young. I mean, I think I kind of made a vow to myself when I was younger, when I was like really younger, before I was 10 or so, I didn't have a whole lot of kids in my neighborhood to play with. So I was in my head a lot. And I would always like try to tell myself, what kind of person do I want to be? And I would look at adults and judge adults and figure out, okay, I want to take that part. I want to take this part. Didn't get it right for a while because I was really a pessimist about everything. But, But one thing I promised myself to do was never get to a point in my life where I couldn't give something a chance. I didn't, my mom and dad couldn't stand rock music, right? And they listened to like Perry Como and things like that. And I saw value in that. I saw value in that type of stuff. So if I could look back and say, okay, well, I can see where they could listen to this, but I'm also going to listen to rock. The next thing to come, I got to give it a chance. Right. I got to. The next thing was unfortunately disco. I gave it a chance. I did. And then right after that was the formulation of country music that I can't stand, but that was hard. And then, the 80s kind of picked up and everything's okay now. Yeah. And rap. I don't mind rapping R&B. It was an acquired taste for me because it was so different and so crazy. But when I started to learn the history of it and where it came from and what they were talking about, and I was like, oh my God, this is a major and amazing American art form that really came from the streets, it came from the modern streets. So you can't help but really like it if you understand it.
Yeah. I like all kinds of music, I guess. And on the topic of picking and choosing from people, like that's actually very interesting that you at a young age were able to do that. Because when I was at a young age, I just looked at people and I was like, oh, like, am I going to have like a fupa? Like I remember one of my uncles, he had this he was fat as shit, had this huge like front upper area. Oh, yeah. And I was like, am I going to be that way when I grow up? Yeah. And I just
obviously that paid off.
Something. Yeah. It sparked something in here. But no, I thought that like you just had the body and you're like, oh, you just grow into this body.
Right. Oh,
and
I see.
I didn't understand you could change your body.
I get it. You didn't know you had that much control.
Yeah, I didn't know you had that much control. And so when I learned I had that control, I was like, well, done. This is what I'm going to have. Right. And it's kind of been the same way with like the evolution of the mind too on myself. Like I think a lot of people just get like kind of tugged along. Mm-hmm. Like with me, I pick and choose. I cultivate what goes into my head now. Right.
Well, yeah, you should. I mean, you should.
And a lot of times it goes to weird places.
Well, that's the way the brain works, especially the male brain. I don't think that, I don't know if you ever said this. I was watching this movie last night. It's called The Middlemen. And Owen Wilson's brother. Who's Owen Wilson's brother? The other Wilson. Yes. Yeah. He's the main character in it. And it's based on a true story. And the story is about the guys that created the operating system that allows you to use your credit card online.
Hang on, what again?
It's the story is about the two guys that came up with the software.
Okay.
That allows you to charge things online with your credit card.
Okay.
They were ones that wrote code. And then they were these two drug addict, crazy men addicted to porn that got tired of seeing the same porn over and over again and wanted to create a platform where people could come and buy it online.
That's why we have online processing.
That's why we have online processing.
Oh my God.
That's why we have it. And it's everybody uses the same code. And the scene's pretty funny. It's like these two guys who live in this apartment. They're always hired and they can't stand each other. And they're always fighting and arguing. And one guy's like, so you think you're going to create a thing where people can just take their credit card and buy anything online? He goes, yes, that's what I want. So you can go online and get and find something and give your credit card number. Don't talk to me for the next 15 minutes. And he turns around and wrote the code in like 15 minutes. According to the movie.
Simple, yeah.
He turned around and wrote the code in 15 minutes and then brought it to, unknowingly, the Russian mob. And I don't know how much of the rest of the story is true. I just don't know. But it's an interesting story to see how it all came about.
I mean, I guess you do have to know how to code in that scenario. But yes, I guess a lot of ideas are that simple, right?
Yeah.
If you just have the right brain looking into it.
It was that one. Okay. Yeah. Oh, no, I thought so. I thought it was the top one.
It is. Yeah. We'll get this figured out in a second.
Yeah. Well, these two guys, I mean, one of them was a veterinarian who got fired because he was scheduling unnecessary pet surgeries so he could order opioids for dogs, and he was using them instead. And the other guy literally worked for NASA. The guy that wrote the code worked for NASA, and he was getting stoned and going into the anti-gravity chamber all the time. So they made him leave. So these two guys together created the code.
Well, highly creative people is what those people are. Yeah, I think we have those people on the planet right now. They're just working at McDonald's and shit.
Right.
Yeah, it's like, how do you find these unique talents and like bring them together?
Yeah, or just get whatever their idea is out. I mean,
A lot of times just the ideas, man. If you get the ideas, there are people out there that can, which that kind of like, that makes me question things a lot. It's like, cause I have these like unique ideas all the time, but I don't know how to code.
Yeah.
So it's like, why don't these people that code have these crazy ideas too?
Right.
Cause like, it seems like if you had that skill, then you would have these great ideas too.
I guess it's the whole analytical creative brain thing, you know,
I guess,
you know, I don't know.
I need to find a partner that can code. If you're out there, come reach out.
He actually has a very good idea that I think has legs.
Yeah. I talk about it quite often. I even, the guy with the Raffies, we were talking about it too that day. And, he basically scolded me. He didn't scold me. But he was telling me what he got. He's like, ideas are just ideas unless you move on them. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that's good fucking advice. Yeah. I've been trying to move, but
yep, it's hard, man. It's hard. It's really hard to get other people motivated that you need the help with.
Well, some ideas are also just fucking huge. Mm-hmm. It's like, it's like if you were going to make a movie, like, yeah, we can go out there and we can shoot a short film really easy. But if we want to make a feature film, like it takes a lot of legwork to get that off the ground. Just
to realize you need an insurance department and you need a billing department and you need a lawyer. I mean, just everything that's happening in the back that you don't see, just to make sure that everything keeps if you're getting funding, you got to have somebody that is getting that for you. I mean, there's just so much to it.
And like, I understand that process pretty good, but it took me years to understand that process. Mm-hmm. When it comes to the governmental processes and things that we're talking about with that idea,
right.
Like that's so out of my wheelhouse that I'm still learning. I'm learning as I go.
Right.
But it's just going to take years to like get these things off the ground.
That when the whole thing, when the film tax credits came into play, I was like, I did not get that. I still don't really have a firm grasp of that, but obviously it was a way to make a lot of money for some people because they stole from it. And
yeah. So the beauty of things like that is I'm trying to build my network and as wide as I can. That way, when something like that does pop up, I can go, hang on, who on my phone does this?
Right.
It's kind of like the THC stuff right now. That's like all over the place. We're serving THC, beers now, like seltzers. But when I have a question about that, of legal actions, I know a guy now that I can call and be like, hey, can we do this? So it's just, you got to have a network of people that, because you can't know everything.
No, you can't. You can't. Nope. It's unfortunate, but you can't. Because I would love, if I could live on an island, just do my own thing, I would do that in a heartbeat.
I think I would too. I think about that quite often. Like because I mean, moving back home to Arkansas, it's kind of like an island. You're kind of away from like the hustle and bustle.
Right.
The people around there, they have lived very simple lives. I fucking love that life. I was at home for like a few weeks, like a couple months ago or something like that. I went home for Thanksgiving is what it was. And when I was at home, man, just being up there is just so therapeutic because you're like cut off from like all this.
Right.
Yeah. All this chaos. So even when I come back here, it takes me, 5 or 6 days just to reacclimate to New Orleans.
Right.
To this lifestyle. And I think about it all the time, like, why don't I just go home and move back there? It's because the opportunity's not there.
Right.
I would love to live that life, be around my parents and stuff, but there's just not the opportunity to do the cool shit that I do down here there.
Right. Yeah.
I could definitely bring something back there, but I still feel like I have more to offer to the world before I move back to that area.
I kind of feel the same way. And it's funny because it's like, my wife and I, we try to do a vacation every year and we're tending to migrate more to a busier cities now. And I think it's because of that. I think when we get into a place where we can relax, we can do that for maybe a day. And then it's like, we're climbing the walls. We don't want to lay on a beach. We don't want to sit by the pool. We want to see things. We want to be culturally stimulated, So the last 3 vacations we've been on have all been to New York City, every one of them. And it's just like, it wasn't like we weren't, it's like, let's maybe go another place. And we've always been able to justify another trip to New York City somehow. And
there's a lot to see there.
Oh my God. And it's just such a cool place. It's just like every time we go is something different, And the last time we went was amazing because the hotel we stayed in, we were really surprised at this, but this hotel we stayed in, the management somehow took a liking to us, or to my wife actually, and like set us up for dinner. It was calling us every day. Do you need anything? What can we do for you? Out of nowhere. It just came out of nowhere to the point where we sent them a king cake.
Nice.
Because we're like, they were so cool with us. And, we had one of the people that were with us, it was their birthday and they sent us to this little restaurant. They had a little birthday celebration for them that they paid for.
That's awesome.
And I don't know. It's inexplicable. I don't know what led, other than the fact that this woman called my wife, this manager at the hotel called my wife and had a conversation with her on the phone, and they kind of hit it off. And that was the only reason that I can see that this happened. You know?
Well, most New Yorkers aren't the nicest people in the world.
Actually, I have not had a problem with anybody in New York. You know,
Okay.
this is what a New Yorker told me. I said, because every time we've gone, it's always been, everybody's been incredibly helpful. Everybody's been incredibly nice. There was even one time, I don't know if you've ever been in New York during rush hour, but now that's when you got to get out of the way. I mean, we were in front of Penn Station one time when this bus pulled up, and we were between the doors of Penn Station and the bus. And I told everybody, just stand still. And it was a herd of buffalo going past you. It was like they weren't even looking at you. So these people are trying to get home. And one day I was standing on the curb waiting for a bus, I think, and I had a map. And I had pulled the map out. And when I did, this old lady in tennis shoes that was obviously running to catch a train ran out in front of me as a bus was coming and started to fall. And I grabbed her before she hit the ground. And in her arms, she looked at me. She said, "Can I help you find something? Like, can I help you?" And I was like, "Yeah, you can." Sorry, you almost get hit by a bus. But I mean, everybody's been really nice. And this time around, I made a mention that. I think it was to a cab driver. So, I said, I don't see that. I don't get the whole everybody's mean thing. And he goes, "Get behind the wheel of a car. Get behind the wheel of a car. You'll find it." And it was like, and I guess he's right about that, because driving in that, especially in Manhattan, is insane.
I wouldn't be able to drive in Manhattan. It's insane up there. But I guess people aren't mean up there. I guess people are just like standoffish. Like they have so much other stuff going on that they don't want you to stop.
Don't say hello. Yeah. You don't do that stuff.
Yeah. So that's my thing is like down here, people talk to you every time they're walking down the street.
And like they know you.
Yeah.
Because somewhere along the line you do have a connection. There's no degrees of separation in the city of New Orleans.
No, dude, I know. If I go anywhere in the city now, people know me.
Yeah. As long as you're out and about, people, and not only that, but if you don't know somebody, you're going to know somebody that they know.
Yeah.
That's very true. But I find New York fascinating. One thing that strikes me about New York is everything happens on the street. It doesn't matter what type of thing there is, it's on the street.
What do you mean?
Well, everybody kind of wears their emotions on their sleeves there, I find. We went up there one time and we saw this in 3 different instances. There was this man next to us on the street, and he was on the phone and he was yelling. He was in the middle of everybody, but he was loud. Nobody was paying attention to him, but he was yelling and just yelling and yelling. And then we look across the street, and there's another man on the phone, and he's yelling and yelling and yelling. And the man on the other side of the street waits for the crosswalk to turn green, comes over, and they're face to face, and they were yelling at each other.
Get the fuck out of here. That's a skit right there.
And when my nephew and I were going to a sushi place in Harlem, and we got off a subway, we were on like a side street. We were on like, it wasn't even a busy street we were on. We were walking on a side street. This was in the morning. We were it was still like 11 o'clock or something. And there was a lady with a stroller walking down the street, and she was on the phone, and she had a little girl with her and a baby in the stroller, and she had happy birthday balloons on the stroller. And she's walking down the street on the phone, and this guy is behind her, like begging her. And she's like, "Stay away from me, motherfucker. I ain't ever going to talk to you again. You motherfucker, you did this for the last time." He's like, baby, please. No, fuck you. You done blew it. You done. And the little girl's just like walking like nothing's going on. And she's like, what is going on here?
Yeah. So that's what you mean by everything happens.
Yeah, everything's happening on the street. Yeah. It's like, it doesn't matter. You don't need walls to have an argument.
I mean, it's probably because their apartments are like this big.
Yeah.
Yeah, Adam and Emily moved up there to New York.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They've been up there now for I guess a year now.
They live in the city?
Yeah, they live in the city.
Wow.
Yeah. And their apartment's like fucking tiny. Right. Yeah.
I thought they broke up. I thought they did they broke up and get
back? But they did split up, but then they got back together.
Good.
Yeah. They got back together. Both moved back to New Orleans for a bit. I think they were here for a year or so. And then went out to New York. I feel sorry for Simba.
Oh.
Yeah, Simba, the little puppy.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can imagine how cold he is in New York. Oh, my God. Little Chihuahua.
Ugh. I have a friend that's lived in New York for quite a few years, and he lives on 2nd Avenue, Midtown. He lives, his apartment is like, it kind of overlooks the UN, and he's lived there since the 90s. And he's the only, it's funny. Out of all the people that I know that I kind of grew up with in New Orleans that moved away, every one of them has moved back. Pretty much. When I say that, I can't recall anybody that hasn't, except for that one guy. Except for
This is
Joey.
a dope city, man.
Well, it's kind of weird because everybody that moved away and moved back all kind of had the same reason. And I'm going to paraphrase it here, but this isn't exactly what they said. But they were like, the fact that where we were living, if I stopped at a gas station with a convenience store, that while I was pumping gas, I couldn't go in the store and buy a single beer, pissed me off. And I think that was just sort of a symbol for what the city means. It's like you can pretty much have free will to do anything here.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what I think that just kind of like was the point. Like they knew they couldn't do that. So there was other things too, that there was other limitations. This is more of a free society down here.
It is. Yeah. You can pretty much get away with anything down here.
Yeah.
The thing that does it for me in the city is the people.
Mm-hmm.
I love the people down here.
Yeah. I agree with you.
Yeah. The culture is cool. Being able to buy beer anywhere is cool. Being able to get weed anywhere is cool. But the coolest thing for me is the people. Yeah. And that's one reason that I stay around here. Cause I could move to LA and do some stuff with Elmer, my buddy out there and be fine. But I wouldn't like the people out there. Right.
There was a guy he opened up a restaurant, Parallel 29, something like that. And I was talking to him one day and he was from LA and he moved down here during the big Hollywood South thing, planning to become the next Coppola, basically. And that didn't work out. So he decided that he wanted to open up a restaurant. So he went and started talking to other restaurateurs just about, what he needs to do. And he said he was surprised at how open they were, like how willing they were to help.
Yeah.
And at first he thought they were fucking with him. And then he put the plans in place and whatever the restaurant, I can't remember what the restaurant's called. I met him at a party. Whatever the restaurant is, it's a pretty big success here. If it's still around, I think it's still around. But one thing he said to me was, he said, the great thing about this city is you can be successful without throwing your best friend under the bus. Mm-hmm. It's like y'all can both be successful together. You don't have to sell somebody out to get ahead.
Yeah.
Everybody's willing to help. And I think that's very true.
Yeah. Like I said, one of the things I do with this podcast, I use it for information. And a lot of the guys that have come on the podcast, I've used them for information for things that I've done, like little business opportunities and things that I've done. And they're willing to give the information.
Yeah.
Yeah. No one wants anything in return. They're just like, let's see let's see what this kid can do with this.
Right. Exactly. And that, to me, and that there's satisfaction in that. There's something of value there. Mm-hmm. I'm the same way. It's like, I don't mind anybody. Whatever. If you want information from me, I'll be happy to give it to you. I don't care. Mm-hmm. If a client doesn't want to use me anymore because they want to use, I don't care. That's fine. Go find some. If you like them better, good. That's fine. I can fill that hole somehow with somebody. Somebody's going to come along. But if it makes you happy to do that, go ahead. It's no harm, no foul. That's how I feel about it. I mean, I have a lot of friends that don't, that do this stuff, but I don't really care.
Yeah, I mean, it's like
too much to worry about.
Well, like you said, you want to. It's service to others,
right?
Yeah. So I feel the same way, man. I love helping people out. It fulfills me in life. Like there's one thing about going and doing your own thing, but there's another thing about doing something that helps other people.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, and that goes back to that book I was telling you about. Everything is fucked, a book about hope. It just says that. It's just like, if you do well by others, it's going to come back for you. Mm-hmm. It's going to come back to help you. And I do believe that.
I 100% believe that as well. I see it in my own life all the time. Mm-hmm. We're doing skits with the comedians right now, which is leading into bigger opportunities for them and also for us.
Good.
And it's putting the bar on the map too. Like just growing all these people's it's like all coming together, and it's allowing me to like step over and make mead and, try to do other little things.
Yeah. That's cool, man.
Other secret projects.
That's cool.
Secret projects that are going to make some people frown. We won't talk about those right now. We're saving those.
Is it about what we talked about earlier?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. Yeah, it's things that people that know me know about, but I haven't released them to the public yet.
I don't blame you. But that will be interesting. If that becomes some sort of cultural revolution, that's going to be an interesting. I think Theo Von would have you on his podcast to talk about.
Oh, absolutely. He would definitely have me on the podcast then. Rene, where can the people find you at?
Well, I have Facebook. It's Establishing Shot Productions, and my website, establishingshotproductions.com. that's where I am.
And this is Rene Michel. I didn't say your name at the
No,
beginning.
we didn't ever.
Yeah, we started talking. Yeah, it was a good conversation. And are you available for hire for?
Yes. I do. I don't do weddings. I don't do anything where I can't say, let's do that one more time.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty much a full service video production company. So I do a lot of commercials for local, mom and pop type businesses around town. And I do a lot of documentary work, short film stuff, any of that stuff. Got all my own equipment, shoot everything on Blackmagic cameras, and have lights, have microphones.
I can vouch for him. His product is really nice too. I've been in several of his productions, and he's good at what he does. He's just fun to be around on set too. Mm-hmm. So definitely reach out to him if you need some help. Yeah,
that's one thing. People I'm getting to the age that where people ask me like, "When are you gonna retire?" It's like, from what?
It's fun.
What do you want me to retire from?
Right.
It's like, this is if I stop doing this, then what am I gonna do?
Yeah. I feel the same way, man. Like I have so many like little side hobbies that I'll never stop.
No.
Like, it's who I am,
Yeah, I think we're blessed that we're really lucky that we can do what we love. I couldn't imagine being stuck in a job where I hated getting there. I hated doing it. I hated everything about it.
I mean, I did it for 3 years, and I was like, "Fuck this."
Yeah. I can't. I don't see my career as a means to an end. I guess I don't think of in terms of that. I'd rather just enjoy what I'm doing.
Absolutely. That's what more people should live life that way, I think. Yeah. But then we wouldn't have a structured society, so we gotta have both.
We wouldn't have police.
You gotta have both,
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, we need those people.
Rene, I appreciate you for coming in today, my man.
Oh, it's been fun, brother.
I would love to do it again soon. Just let me know when you're free.
Yeah, we can do it tomorrow.
Thank you, Rene.